This show is brought to you by X Factor FM. Attention all units. Time to rise and grind. This is not a drill. I repeat, this is not a drill. You put in the hours on the job site, the factory floor, and the rigs. But here, right now, the mission is different. Welcome to Operation Fatherhood. The mission brief is simple. Lead with strength, guide with heart, show up for your kids like you show up for your work site. Every single day, no excuses. This is your call to gear up, step in, and execute the most important role of life, being a dad. Operation Fatherhood, hard hats, soft hearts. The mission starts now. Welcome back, dads. Welcome back to yet another episode of Operation Fatherhood. So what we're going to be talking about today, and I just want to preface this episode. So this episode is called Boot Camp. And what I mean by boot camp, we are preparing you for all the new dads out here. This is specifically for the new dads. So we're preparing you for your first child. Again, just like you would go in the military, just like you're at the job site, you get new hire orientation. You start as an apprentice, right? Not knowing anything. Then you go through life and become a journeyman. Kind of along those same lines. So in this episode, we're going to be discussing some good talking points, some tips to help you new dads get ready for that first child. So when we talk about having a kid, it's a big responsibility. Sometimes when you get presented that, your significant other is pregnant, your significant other, your wife, your spouse is, she missed her cycle, and now we know that we have a baby coming. Our mindset starts to go in a million directions, right? How am I going to afford a baby? What am I going to do? If you're ready for a baby, this is great. This is great. If you planned it, y'all planned it together, y'all talked about it, you waited till the stars aligned, the planets aligned, and y'all did y'all thing. Bam, here comes baby. But a lot of times when you least expect it, guess what? Bam, here comes a baby. Well, now we got to get our mind right. We got to get the mindset right of being able to be ready for a little one, a little us to be there here in a couple of months, 9 months, right? So first and foremost, your mindset has to be right? It's about being present with the mindset. You don't have to be perfect. Trust me, you don't have to be perfect. You're going to be learning to be a dad just as much as that baby is learning to be a little human being, right? So one of the tips I will have about getting your mindset right, journal your thoughts. Put it to paper and read it, right? What are your fears? What are your hopes for when the baby arrives? What helps you release your stress and focus on what really matters? Put that to paper and read it back. As those 9 months progress, that mindset starts to get super hyper focused on, making sure the baby is healthy. The baby comes out healthy. What fears do you have about being a dad? What hopes do you have? Do you want a boy? Do you want a girl? Write that down and read it. And as you start to outline, this journal of thoughts, make sure you use affirmations in that. Make sure you write these down, as well. I don't have to be perfect. I just have to show up. Put that in there. Repeat that to yourself. Actually look yourself in the mirror when you're getting ready for work, right? Hey, I don't have to be perfect. Because again, none of us are perfect. Nobody is perfect in this world. Dads, trust me, as much as we want to say that and be perfect, we know we're not. We know we have faults. But I don't have to be perfect. I just have to show up, right? So again, mindset, get that mindset right. You have about 9 months, right, until that baby pops out. So in those 9 months, get your mindset right. The mind is a great tool. It can work wonders when you put your mind, on things. You can accomplish a lot, right? It's the biggest muscle in the body, right? And you have to work it out just like you do anything else, right? You work your body. You want big biceps. You want to have, washboard abs. You have to work those muscles out. Same thing with your mindset when it comes to, bringing a little one into this world. So the second thing that I will preface, I will want to make sure all new dads understand, wherever you're living, right? You have to prepare your home base. And what do I mean by prepare your home base? Well, you got to baby proof the thing, right? If you have, glass tables that have sharp edges, kids, when they're first born, obviously they're not crawling. They'll be in the crib. They'll be doing other things, but, laying down in the bed, in the bassinet or wherever you end up putting them to sleep at. But as they start to grow, as they start to crawl, they become curious, making sure that all the chemicals are put up, locked up, cabinets are locked up, making sure your ovens and dishwashers and stuff that they can lean on doesn't tip over. Same thing with the, dressers and anything that's inside the baby's room, right? So make sure that we're preparing our home base, baby proofing, setting up the crib, stocking up on diapers and wipes, have your command station right there for when the baby does its business and you have to change diapers. You got a changing table. I was old school, so they had we had a changing table for a minute, but then when it happens. When nature calls. So you just you improvise, right? Throw down a blanket, one of the blankets that they give you in the hospital, or one of the baby's blankets. That way you don't get shit on the floor. And I'm my daughters might get mad at me for this, but my one daughter in particular. When she would go shit, I shit you not, guys, she would shit down her back every single time without fail. And that was crazy because it was like we had to keep like 3 or 4 different changes of clothes. We had to keep a whole bunch of wipies and diapers, and how it happened, I have no idea. But just be prepared. Prepare your home base, right? And us as dads, right, we might be at work, early morning, to late evening, but we still want to have a dad station, right? Your own organized spots for bottles, burp cloths, those midnight essentials. If you're taking the night shift, right, letting your significant other do and get some rest while you're there, tending to the baby if the baby's up at night. So again, make sure that you're preparing for that, and make sure that your significant other, your wife, your spouse, your girlfriend, doesn't end up moving anything out of your command station, because that's going to be yours. And have her set up her command station if you want, so that way when it ends up being time for her to do her thing, she knows exactly where her stuff is, and exactly where your stuff is. And then a little technique, run through a little mock night shift, so that way you're comfortable before the baby gets here, right? Run through what it would be like, set an alarm, maybe put the baby monitor in there, get stuff going, so that way you get used to a baby being there once the baby comes. Having those things, I cannot tell you, stock up on wipies, stock up on formula, stock up on diapers. Biggest thing, onesies, right? Definitely onesies, and lots and lots and lots of baby powder or A&D ointment, right? Because they're in them diapers and you know, all day they get rashes. Yeah, stock up on those things. Get the essentials, but make sure that you have a dad station, right? Something that's organized, something you know, right? Even in the kitchen where you're making the bottles at, dad station, mom station. Yours is there for when you're tackling that night shift, when you have the night shift with the baby. And I'll tell you a little story. There was one time, not one time because I have 4 daughters, but many a times, especially with working out of town, working the night shift, or, working all day, I would come home and, have my wife take it easy, right? Especially like with bathing, like when you have multiple kids, right? Now, this is for new dads that are expecting their first one, but once you end up going into multiple kids, the spouse needs a break. And what I ended up doing is, instead of my wife bathing our daughters, I would take over and I would end up bathing our daughters. Why? Because to bathe in the bathtub, my wife being pregnant with our second and then our third, it gets hard on your spouse. It gets hard on them to, be bending around, carrying all that weight and stuff. So again, help your spouse as much as possible. And that goes into the next tip. Support your partner. This is a team effort. And again, sometimes we don't expect to have a kid, right? If you're out there doing certain things, the grown-up things, right? And it happens by accident. All I say is, if you don't want kids, if you are not ready to settle down, if you're not ready to take care of a little person, if you're not ready to put 100% into being a dad, please, fellas, strap up, protect yourselves, so that way you are not part of any statistic, right? We don't want our dads to be out there being part of some of these statistics of not being, fathers, or, having a whole bunch of babies with multiple women, right? Again, not saying that we're bad. We all make mistakes. We all do certain things. But what I will say is, make sure you're ready to bring a life into this world, because they are definitely blessings. Our kids are blessings, right? Sometimes they are given to us to slow down, to focus on somebody other than ourselves. So just be mindful of that. But like I was saying, support your partner, because it's a joint process. Pregnancy is not just on the woman. Now, granted, she's going to be, doing what she does. If she works, she's, going to be, starting to show, at about the 2-month mark, 3-month mark. It starts to get harder once we get into that second trimester, right? The 6-month mark, 7th month mark. And then that last trimester, right? That 7, 8, 9, definitely she will need your help. It is a team effort. Dads need to carry their load just as much as the wife, the spouse, the girlfriend is carrying the load, carrying that baby for 9 months, right? Her body changes, her hormones are changing. And what's crazy about pregnancy is that as the baby is forming inside of the body of the woman, the baby starts to feel all of that outside stress. If the mom's stressed, the baby's going to be stressed. If there's lots of yelling, lots of stuff going on, the baby hears that through the vibrations of the belly. So just be mindful that it is a team effort. Pregnancy and bringing a kid into the world is very stressful. Trust me, I got 4 daughters at that. But let that not be why you end up stressing, because again, like I said, our kids end up being blessings. So one tip, take over the household chores when possible, right? Again, the wife, you're at work, you're on the construction site, you're putting in those 12, 14-hour days. When you get home, right, you don't have a kid just yet. So again, this is all my new dads. And if any veteran dads that are out there have any tips, tricks for the new dads, please, please, please drop us a comment. Let us know so that way we can, promote that and get the information out there to the new dads. But yeah, take over the household, wash the dishes, clean up, do the laundry. If you have to take the laundry, down a flight of stairs, it gets hard on the woman when she is carrying a baby. So take over some of that. And then one thing I will say is learn some basic soothing methods, swaddling, rocking, burping before the baby arrives. Why? Because you're going to end up having your shift, right? You're going to take over. You're going to be the best dad that you can be. So learning how to change a diaper, learning how to swaddle correctly, so that way when you give the baby the bottle. And what was crazy, and I like giving my own examples of this because my second oldest, what I would end up doing when she was a baby is, I would end up dressing her up, in her onesie, long sleeve onesie, so that way she didn't get cold, had the cap on, and then I would swaddle her super tight, give her, a nice warm bottle so that way she can go to sleep. But again, being a new dad, not understanding, how to really, swaddle and when you should do it or not. I think I was swaddling her a little too tight, and I was overdressing her, right? She was sweating up a storm. She would started to get these little rashes up underneath her neck or on the back of the neck from, her sweat. So yeah, learn the basics, right? Some good basics, soothing methods, the rocking, right? And they have real life, dolls, and I don't want to say dolls, but like babies, for you to practice on, to be able to learn how to position. If you've never held a baby before, how to hold a baby, how to properly burp, how to properly rock a baby, again, just some of the techniques, do them, learn them before the baby comes. So that way you're more prepared. You're arming yourself for when this little life comes into this world, to be able to, soothe them when they're crying. One thing I will say, and us dads, we are definitely used to this, especially if you're used to, again, working 12-hour days, working night shifts, being out or away from the family for a little bit. Plan for sleepless nights. Sometimes we do that when we're away. Sometimes we do that when we're working the night shift. We know it's going to be one of those nights that we are not going to get any sleep, right? If you have more than one kid, it's definitely, you're not going to get any sleep, because when the baby's sleeping, the other ones want to play. I will say this before I continue with the planning for sleepless nights. Make sure you get the baby on the same sleep schedule that you want them to be on. So say you're going to be working a night shift and you're going to sleep during the day, then hey, during the day, the baby is sleeping, and at night he'll be up. But a lot of times this is where supporting your partner and figuring out that schedule comes into play. If not, then what'll end up happening is, if you're working a night shift, somehow you are going to lose sleep to be able to take care of the baby, to let your other, your significant other, your spouse, your girlfriend, get some rest. So it's definitely real. Sleep deprivation is definitely real, and it will test your patience. You will get snappy, like us guys, us dads, we get hangry sometimes when we're working, and we work through lunch and you don't get to go eat lunch, and it tests your patience, right? it definitely will test your patience. So one thing I will say, again, like I said with the support your partner, work in shifts, right? Every 2 hours of rest makes a difference. So again, if y'all work in shifts, say the baby's going to be up, 2-3 hours. And usually about, after a month, they get into a routine. The baby starts to, sleep a little bit longer. You're able to, feed them a little bit more. Again, letting them grow their bellies with the formula, or, even if you're breastfeeding and you're not using formula, it all depends on that sleep schedule. So make sure that y'all work in shifts. Who's gonna get up? When the baby gets up, who's gonna be the one that gets to sleep? And then sometimes, if like me, I sleep pretty hard, but I when it came to the kids, any little noise, any little movement that I heard, I was up. So that was a blessing to be able to, go tend to them, make sure they were okay, make sure they weren't rolled over on their face, nothing was in the way. If they needed it, I would check their diapers to make sure, maybe they needed to be changed, warming up a bottle, all those things. But please work with your teammate, right? Because y'all are a team. Y'all are a team in this thing called life. Y'all are a team in this thing called parenthood. So work as a team. Kids are expensive. I will repeat this. Kids are fucking expensive. Pardon my language, but they are expensive. But do not fret. Do not let that deter you and scare you away, new dads. Financial readiness. You have to be ready financially to bring a kid into the world. They changed the budget. It's no more, we're going to go out to eat and we're only eating for two. It's not, I get to go, on these, vacations with my significant other. Now it's what does the baby need? Do we need more diapers? Do we need more formula? Right? So again, the financial readiness when it comes to kids, they change the budget and the priorities. You have to prioritize where you're going to spend your money at, right? Obviously, you're not going to let your kid go without diapers. You're not going to let them go without formula. So again, build a small baby fund for unexpected expenses, right? If the baby gets sick, the insurance, depending on the severity of the sickness, right? You might have to do that. A small baby fund, put aside some money, start saving some money, so that way you can have something for when that baby comes, and then keep it there. So that way, if you don't use it, great, that's perfectly fine. That can then turn into, maybe a birthday fund and a college fund if you don't end up needing, using it. But build a small baby fund. Again, you have 9 months, save some money for unexpected expenses. And then that way, you're financially ready to bring the baby into the world. Automate savings so that way it doesn't get skipped, right? I know sometimes when we're doing direct deposits, you're able to set a certain percentage into your savings account. So if you need to get that set up, 5%, 10% into the savings, whatever, you can even put a dollar amount. Hey, I want $200 to this savings account, and let that be automatic. Every time you get paid, that's going to your savings. Then you work with what you have, for your net, right, off of the check. So again, be prepared. Gotta be prepared when you bring a baby into the world. Now, this last little tip and talking point, I need all my new dads to listen up. So come up close so y'all can hear me. Be present from day one. I cannot stress that enough. Be present from day one. Babies will remember touch, voice and the consistency of hearing and feeling, right? Hearing your voice and feeling your touch. Right. So even before the baby is born, this is where I said, right, the stresses, the yelling, the babies hear that, they feel that, they remember that. So talk to the baby, sing to the baby, read to the baby, right? If you're a lover of music, right, get the headphones, get some headphones, put them on your wife's or spouse's belly, and let the baby hear some of that music. They'll remember that. They start to feel those vibrations and hear what's going on around them. When you're talking to the baby, right, get close to the baby, to the belly, and talk to the baby, just like the baby was already here. Make sure that you are present from day one. Be there. Again, they remember touch, they remember voice. One of the techniques that I will say, make skin to skin bonding your go-to ritual. That is very, very key, especially when they are very young. You're holding them, right? That skin to skin, right? The holding of the fingers, because they'll grab onto your fingers. They know, what dad's hand feels like. They know what mom's hands feels like. So that skin to skin contact, yes, definitely has to be one of your bonding rituals. I can tell you again from personal experience, all my daughters would end up laying on my chest. And when they would lay on my chest, they would go to sleep. Right. And then what would end up happening? I would end up going to sleep. And what was crazy, I know we talked about, the rocking and learning that. With my oldest, I would put on a song by Kenny G and Peebo Bryson, Before the Night is Over. And what we would do, she's getting sleepy, feed her a bottle. I'd have her, in my arms. We'd sit in the rocking chair. And as I'm rocking her, I finish burping her. She finishes her bottle. I put her on my chest and, I'm rocking her. Next thing you know, I rock myself to sleep. And then it's crazy because, again, being a young dad, being unexperienced, it's not the thing to do. Don't sit in a rocking chair if you're sleepy and you're rocking your kid to sleep, because you probably will go to sleep. But what was crazy is as I'm sitting there, it kind of reclined a little bit, and as I'm rocking back and forth, she's sitting on my chest, and it just so happened that she rolled she rolled down and somehow ended up on the floor, and I heard when she kind of smacked the floor. Luckily, the way my legs were, she kind of like rolled down my chest, legs, and then ended up on the floor. So I picked her up real quick and put her back on my chest, and my wife ended up coming and what was that? Nothing. Everything's good. Baby's good. She's not crying. We're good. No problem. So, and you have those things again. You make sure that the baby is okay. The baby didn't hit her head. She was good. So, but yeah, just definitely make sure that the baby knows you're there. You do those rituals, you talk, you sing, you read, right? Read bedtime stories when she's inside the belly, or he's inside the belly, the baby's inside the belly, and just be consistent. Show up and be present from day one. So here's a little motivational quotes for you dads out there. Now, this is for all dads, right? Not just the new dads, but for all dads. Fatherhood isn't about being ready. It's about being willing. Let me read that one more time. Fatherhood isn't about being ready. It's about being willing to do the things, to step up to the plate, to be able to be consistent in our kids' lives. Every step that you take now is proof you're preparing to love and protect and guide your child. So, gents, my new dads out there, this one's for you. This is boot camp. This one's for you. Okay. So make sure that, again, be present from day one. Make sure that you're, writing down your financial readiness, setting up that baby fund. Prepare yourself for those sleepless nights, right? Working in shift. One of the techniques I forgot to mention with working, the planning for those sleepless nights, keep caffeine strategic, not constant. Hydration and short naps. Man, I tell you, some of those power naps, those 30-minute, 40-minute power naps and some water, man, lifesavers. Coffee, hey, if you need coffee, I get it. Trust me, I'm a coffee drinker myself. I drank coffee with all my daughters, and now my, daughters that are adults, they drink coffee as well. So support your partner, right? Make sure you're supporting your partner in every aspect inside the home life. How can you support while they are, bearing the majority of the work, which is the pregnancy, the holding the baby, for 9 months. Making sure you're baby proof in the house. Prepare your home. Make sure you get all the, the knob protectors, the socket protectors, making sure you get all the things to keep the cabinets shut, all the brackets to keep, the baby's dressers and anything that, when they, pull themselves up when they're trying to walk, it doesn't tip over on them. You don't end up having an incident. And then, it starts with mindset. Get your mind right. Get your mind right. You have 9 months to get your mind right and be prepared for when this baby comes into this world. So again, fatherhood starts with mindset. It isn't about presence. It's about presence, not perfection. Okay. I apologize for that mess up. My bad. But it's about presence. It's about being there, being ready for when that baby is there. You don't have to be perfect. We will never be perfect. We just need to be present in our kids' lives. So again, all my new dads, hopefully you got something out of this. This has been boot camp, preparing for your first child. So listen up, brothers. No dads walk into this mission fully trained. None of us. But you're preparing your mind, your home, your heart to be ahead of the game. Okay, so remember, your baby doesn't need a perfect dad. They just need you. They need you to be present, to be loving, willing to grow right alongside them. Again, I know in previous episodes, I say that they help us grow as much as we help them grow. So gear up, stay focused, and step into fatherhood with courage. We have your 6, because the mission is the most important one you will ever take, and that's being a dad. So until next time, this is Operation Fatherhood. Stay strong, stay present, and keep leading the mission. Peace.